Chapter 1. The New House. I came to this house with my husband, John. He said it would help me to rest, and he looked at me with so much care when he said it. "You must not worry," he told me. "This is the right place for you. You only need peace and quiet." I wanted to believe him, so I nodded, even though my heart felt heavy. Inside, I wished for something more, but I tried to show him a smile. John spoke again and said, "You must promise me one thing. No work, no books, no writing, only rest. That is what you need." I whispered that writing makes me feel calm, but he shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "It will make you tired. Please listen to me. Trust me. I am a doctor, and I know what is best for you." I stayed quiet then. I did not want to argue with him. My mind was full of questions, but I only said, "I will try." He touched my hand kindly and said, "You will be well soon. I believe it." I whispered back, "I hope so." When we went into the room, he looked around and asked, "Do you like it here?" I gave a small smile and told him that it was fine. He seemed pleased with my answer and said, "Good. Then rest. That is all that matters." But later, when I was alone, I could not stop my thoughts. Why can I not do what I love? Why must I only sit and rest? I felt like a child again, with someone else making all the choices for me. At night, when he came close, he spoke softly. "Trust me. I know you will get better. You only need time." I said to him, "Yes, I trust you." But inside, I wondered if he really understood how I felt. Each day after that, he asked me the same question. "Did you rest today?" And each time I said yes. But the truth was different. My body rested, but my mind was restless. One afternoon I gathered courage and asked him if I could write a little. He frowned and said, "No, not at all. Promise me you will not do it." I looked down at my hands and whispered, "I promise." But in secret, my heart longed for it. I wanted to put my thoughts on paper. I felt locked inside myself, yet I still smiled for him and said nothing more. At night he would tell me that I was strong and that I would be well soon. I always thanked him, but I still wondered if I could really get better by doing nothing. The days began to feel slow. I tried to pass them by watching the walls, watching the light, and watching my own thoughts. I wanted to talk to him about it, but he was often busy, so I stayed silent. When he did sit with me, he asked again if I was happy here. I nodded and said yes, but deep inside I thought, no, I am lonely and I am empty. Still, I held on to a little hope. I told myself that maybe tomorrow I would feel better. I repeated this thought again and again, because that hope was the only thing that kept me strong. Chapter 2. The Rest Cure. John kept reminding me that I must rest. Each morning he asked, "Did you sleep well? Did you close your eyes without worry?" I told him yes, but inside I knew the truth. My body had been still, yet my mind never stopped. Thoughts moved through me like a river. I wanted to share them with him, but he always said, "Do not think too much. Thinking will make you weak." I smiled at him, but in my heart I felt the weight of silence. One day I said, "John, I want to write. Only a few lines. It will not hurt me." He looked at me with firm eyes and answered, "No, you must promise me again. Writing is not for you right now. You must keep your strength. Trust me, I know best." I nodded slowly, though my heart broke a little. After he left, I whispered to myself, "I feel alive when I write. Why can he not see that?" Still, I hid these words. The days grew long. I sat quietly and tried to rest as he wished. Sometimes I folded my hands and stared at nothing. Sometimes I whispered prayers, but every moment felt heavy. I thought of all the stories I wanted to put on paper. I thought of words waiting in my mind. They pressed against me, asking to come out, yet I had no place to send them. I felt like a bird with tied wings. At meals, John spoke with kindness. He told me, "You are getting stronger each day. I can see it." I looked at him and answered, "I hope so." He smiled proudly, and I did not tell him the truth. My strength was not growing. My body rested, but my soul felt trapped. Still, I wanted to believe him, so I said nothing more. At night, I turned to him and whispered, "Do you really think I will be well soon?" He kissed my forehead and said, "Yes, very soon. Only be patient." I closed my eyes, but my heart beat fast. Patience was hard when every day felt empty. Sometimes I thought about leaving my room and walking outside. Fresh air, I believed, would help me. But John said, "Not now. Stay in the room. The cure needs quiet." I obeyed, though each step inside the room felt like a chain holding me down. I reminded myself, if I follow his way, maybe I will heal. One afternoon, I asked again, "John, why can I not write? Just one page." He looked at me with worry. "Because it excites your mind. It makes you restless. I need you calm." I turned my face away so he would not see my tears. I said softly, "Yes, John, I will listen." In my heart I cried, "But without writing, I am not myself." Day after day, I acted as he wanted. I smiled when he looked at me. I stayed quiet when he asked me to rest. I even promised again and again that I would not write. But when I was alone, I sometimes imagined holding a pencil and paper. I saw myself filling a page with words. That dream gave me comfort. Even if it was only in my mind, John was gentle and strict at the same time. He loved me, yet he did not hear my true voice. He believed his way was the only way, and I, caught between love and silence, tried to carry his trust. I told myself, maybe one day he will understand. Maybe one day he will see that rest is not enough. Until then, I kept my thoughts inside me, like hidden seeds waiting for the rain. Chapter 3. The Nursery Room. John said this room was the best place for me. He called it strong and safe, and he told me it would help me heal. I tried to smile for him, but I did not like the room. Something inside me felt uneasy. I told him, "It looks strange. The walls are rough, and the color makes me tired." He only laughed a little and said, Do not let small things trouble you. Focus on your rest. I stayed quiet, but in my mind I thought, why must I stay here if it makes me unhappy? The walls were covered with yellow paper. I disliked it from the first moment. The color was dull and broken, and there were marks on it. When I looked at it for too long, my head began to hurt. I whispered to John, "The color is not good for me." He only smiled and answered, "It is nothing. Do not let such thoughts take your mind. You must stay calm." I nodded, but I knew my feelings were real. When he left for work, I sat alone in the room. My eyes often moved to that paper even when I tried not to look. I said to myself, "It is only paper, nothing more." But the longer I stared, the more strange it seemed. There were lines and shapes that crossed each other, and I could not understand them. At times I thought they were moving. I shook my head and whispered, "It is only paper. I must not think like this." Still, my heart felt uneasy. At night, when John came back, I told him again, "The paper troubles me. It makes me restless." He touched my hand and said, "You must not let your imagination fool you. It is only your nerves. Do not give power to these thoughts." I wanted him to understand, but I could see he would not, so I stayed silent. He wanted me quiet and calm, and I did not wish to upset him. Each day I felt the hours grow heavy. I wanted to write, but he told me not to. I wanted to walk outside, but he said I must not, so I stayed in the room. Sometimes I folded my hands and tried to think of happy things, but always my eyes returned to the paper. I thought, why does it call to me? Why can I not look away? At breakfast one morning, I asked John, "Will rest alone truly make me better?" He looked at me with care and said, "Yes, of course. You will soon be yourself again. Do not doubt. Trust me." I answered softly, "I will try." But inside I thought, how can I feel well when my thoughts are trapped? In the afternoons, I sat and watched the paper. I felt as if there was something behind the surface. The lines twisted and curled, and I thought I saw forms inside them. I told myself it was only my tired mind. Still, each time I looked, the feeling grew stronger. I whispered, "Why does it look alive?" My heart beat fast, but I kept my secret. I knew if I told John, he would only say I must not think about it. So I kept it to myself. I smiled when he asked if I was comfortable. I nodded when he told me to rest. But the truth was different. The paper had begun to live in my thoughts. I felt it watching me as I sat alone. Day by day, the room became more strange. I felt myself pulled closer to the paper, as if it wanted me to notice it. And though I tried to push the thought away, deep inside I began to wonder if something was hidden there, waiting for me to see. Chapter 4. Strange Patterns. The yellow paper filled my days and nights. It was not just a wall covering anymore. It became a part of me, a constant companion. At first I only thought it ugly, but now I could not look away from it. Every morning when I opened my eyes, it was the first thing I saw, and it held me until the light faded. The pattern was wild and confusing. It bent and twisted in ways that made no sense. I tried to laugh at myself, but even when I closed my eyes, the shapes followed me. When John came home, he asked the same questions each evening. Did you rest? Did you stay calm? I smiled and said, yes, I rested. He looked pleased and proud, and he told me, I can see you are stronger. Soon you will be well. I wanted to believe him, but inside my mind was in pieces. I thought of telling him about the paper, about how it seemed alive, but I stopped myself. He would call it silly. He would tell me not to think. So I smiled and stayed silent, even as my heart trembled. In the light of day, the paper seemed bright, yet the pattern grew stranger. I thought I saw bars across it, strong and sharp, like something was locked behind them. I whispered, it is only paper, nothing more. But my heart did not believe. At times I saw shadows move within those bars. It was faint, yet enough to make me shiver. I told myself I was tired, that my eyes were playing tricks, but each time I looked back, the same form pressed against the pattern. At dinner one night I tried again. I said softly, John, I feel something in this paper. It makes me uneasy. He looked at me with care, but also with command. You must not let your imagination run away. These are only thoughts. I cannot have you think about such nonsense. Promise me you will not. I lowered my eyes and whispered, I promise, but it was a promise I knew I could not keep. When I was alone, I watched the paper more closely. I traced the lines with my eyes until they blurred. The pattern curled like twisted rope, S, and sometimes I thought I saw arms pushing out, or faces hidden within the folds. I would blink hard, hoping they would vanish. But when I opened my eyes again, the images were still there. My breath grew heavy. I pressed my hands together and whispered, Why do you look at me? What do you want? At night the paper changed again. The moonlight touched it and gave it new life. The pattern looked softer but more alive. I saw the form of a woman, faint yet clear, moving behind the design. She bent low and crawled, as if trying to escape. My heart raced as I whispered, Who are you? Why are you trapped? The silence answered me, yet I felt her struggle in my own chest. I turned away, but my eyes found her again. John believed I was getting better. He told me, You smile more. You look brighter. I forced a small laugh and said, Yes, I am better. He looked happy, and I did not wish to hurt him with the truth. But the truth was heavy inside me. I thought, if he knew what I see, he would never understand. He would shut me away even more. So I hid my fear behind a smile. The paper became my secret. It frightened me, but it also pulled me in. I thought about it at every meal, every moment, and even in my dreams. The woman inside seemed real. She was no longer a shadow. She moved behind the bars of the pattern, pushing, pressing, waiting. I began to believe she was calling to me. I began to believe she needed me to see her. John still spoke to me with love. He said, "Trust me. You are safe here. These little fears will soon vanish." I nodded and told him, "I trust you." But deep inside I thought, this is no little fear. This is something alive. The paper was no longer paper. It had become my world. It held a secret that grew stronger each day, and I was the only one who could hear it. Chapter 5. The Woman Inside. The paper had taken over my mind. At first, it was only the strange lines that caught my eye, but now I was certain of what I saw. Behind the pattern, there was a woman. She was not a clear shape all the time. Sometimes she was only a shadow, faint and trembling, but at other times she looked real, pressed against the bars of the design, trying to break through. I told myself again and again that it was not possible. Yet every hour I believed it more. I sat for long stretches of time, my hands folded on my lap, staring at her. I whispered, "She is there. I know she is there." She bent low, crawling along the edges of the paper, shaking the lines as if they were chains. I felt her struggle as if it were mine. She was locked in silence, but her silence spoke louder than words. John asked me every day, "How are you feeling? Are you calmer?" I gave him the same answer. "Yes, I am calmer." He looked pleased with me, certain that his cure was working. He touched my hand and said, "I can see the change in your face. You are improving." I smiled because he needed to hear it, but inside I was restless. I wanted to tell him the truth, that the woman in the paper haunted me, but I knew what he would say. He would call it foolishness. He would order me to stop looking, and he might even lock me away. So I hid my secret. During the afternoons, when the light was bright, I studied the paper more carefully. The woman was always there, pressed against the bars of the pattern. I thought she shook them with her hands, trying to escape. At times I believed I heard her breathing, faint but close, and I would hold my breath just to listen. Then I whispered to her, "Do not be afraid. I see you. You are not alone." She did not answer, yet her struggle filled me with a strange kind of closeness. At night the vision was even stronger. The moonlight made the paper glow in a ghostly way. The woman moved more freely then. She crept behind the bars, crawling, pulling, bending, as if she was desperate to be free. I lay in bed, my eyes wide, my heart pounding, and I whispered, "Who has locked you there? Why can I see you when no one else does?" I did not sleep, but I could not turn away either. One night I tried to speak to John. I said softly, "The paper. It is not only paper. There is something behind it." He frowned at me and said firmly, "You must not let your mind wander. You promised me you would rest, and that is what you need. Do not think of the paper again." His voice was kind but also sharp, and I felt small. I looked down and said, "Yes, I will not think of it." But inside I thought, I cannot stop thinking of it. It will not let me. The days grew longer. I began to watch every change in the paper. In the morning, the woman was still, as if she was sleeping. In the afternoon, she moved slowly, pressing her shape against the bars. At night, she became wild, shaking and crawling, desperate to be free. I whispered to myself, "She is alive. She is trapped. I must help her." The thought filled me with fear, but it also gave me purpose. I no longer felt empty. I had something to look for, something to understand. John still believed I was healing. He told me, "Your face is brighter. Soon you will laugh at these fears." I smiled and said, "Yes, I will laugh at them." But the truth was growing heavier. I thought, if I tell him, he will never believe me. He will not see what I see. He will call me sick, when I know I am the only one who sees clearly. The woman inside the paper became my hidden companion. She was silent, but she lived with me in every moment. I thought of her when I ate, when I lay down, when I dreamed. She followed me everywhere, and slowly, I began to feel that her story was mine. She was locked away, and so was I. She longed for freedom, and so did I. Her silent cry was my own. One afternoon, I placed my hand on the wall and whispered to her, "I will not leave you. I will watch until you are free." My fingers touched the rough paper, and for a moment I thought I felt her fingers on the other side. I pulled my hand back in fear, but the feeling did not leave me. From that day, I was no longer only watching. I was waiting for the moment when she would step out, waiting for the moment when I would know the truth. Chapter 6: Losing Control. I could not stop watching the yellow paper. It was in front of me day and night, and it had become more real than anything else. When I tried to close my eyes, I still saw it in the dark. When I turned away, I felt it pulling me back, whispering that I must look again. At first, I thought it was only the strange shapes, but now I was sure there was more. The woman behind the paper had become clearer, stronger, and closer. She was no longer just a shadow. She was alive, and she wanted to come out. John still asked me every morning, "Did you rest well?" I gave him my same quiet smile and said, "Yes, I rested." He kissed my forehead and said, "That is my good girl. You are healing." I wanted to laugh at him then, because he did not know that I had spent the whole night awake, staring at the paper, watching the woman move in the pale light. My body was still, but my mind had never rested. The woman behind the paper was no longer silent to me. I could feel her cries in my own chest. She shook the bars of the pattern, creeping along them like an animal in a cage. Sometimes she bent low, crawling across the wall, and I whispered to her, "I see you. I know you are there. Do not give up." When I spoke, she moved faster. She pressed harder. It was as if my voice reached her. My breath came fast, but I did not turn away. I began to live two lives. One life was the one John wanted to see, calm, quiet, obedient. The other was the secret life I carried inside, filled with the woman, the paper, and the fear that grew larger every day. My secret life was stronger. It held me even when I tried to resist. I felt myself slipping away from the world John believed in and moving into the world of the paper. In the afternoons, when John was gone, I dared to move close to the wall. I touched the rough surface with my hands, tracing the lines. They felt like hard bars, and I imagined they were iron, holding her back. I pressed my cheek against them and whispered, "You are not alone. I will help you." For a moment I felt her hand press against mine from the other side. I pulled back in fear, but the feeling stayed in my skin. I could not forget it. At night the visions grew wild. The moonlight filled the room and turned the paper into a cage alive with movement. I no longer saw only one woman. I saw many shadows, bending and creeping, pressing together. They all wanted freedom. They pulled, they shook, they crawled, and I whispered, "How many are you? How long have you been trapped?" No one answered, but I felt their pain surround me. Sometimes I laughed quietly when I saw them moving. Sometimes I cried when I felt their struggle. I pressed my forehead against the wall and whispered, "I will set you free." My heart beat so fast that I thought it would break, but I could not stop. I wanted to write down what I saw, but John had forbidden it. Still, one day I took a small piece of paper and wrote, "The woman is alive. She is trapped. She is me." The words shook me. I hid the page quickly, but I could not erase the thought. It stayed inside me like a secret fire. John still believed I was improving. He told me, "Your eyes look calmer. Your face is brighter." I nodded and said softly, "Yes, I feel better." But the truth was the opposite. My eyes burned with the sight of the paper, and my face only glowed because of the fire inside me. I could not tell him this. He would never understand. He would tell me I was sick, when I knew I was the only one who saw the truth. The woman in the paper was no longer a stranger. She was part of me. When she shook the bars, I felt it in my arms. When she pressed against the wall, I felt it in my chest. When she bent low and crept, I felt myself creeping with her. I began to think that she and I were the same. We were both locked away. We were both silenced. We both wanted freedom. The room was no longer just a room. It was our prison. The paper was no longer just decoration. It was the cage that bound us both. I laughed sometimes when I thought of how John believed he was helping me. He thought I was resting, when in truth I was planning. He thought I was healing, when in truth I was breaking. He thought I was his good, quiet wife, when in truth I was the woman in the paper, fighting for release. I began to spend whole days sitting in front of the wall. My hands touched the paper. My eyes followed every line. My breath matched the rhythm of her creeping. I whispered, "We will not be trapped forever. We will find a way out." I believed it with all my heart. The woman inside believed it too. I knew it because she moved with new strength. She pushed harder, she shook harder, and I shook with her. Each day I lost more of myself. I no longer cared about meals or books or sleep. I cared only about her. She was my world now, my secret, my reflection. I thought, if she escapes, I escape. If she is free, I am free. And once that thought took hold, I could not let it go. I was no longer only watching. I was waiting. Waiting for the moment when she would break the paper. Waiting for the moment when we would both step into freedom. Chapter 7. The Final Obsession. The paper had taken everything from me. It had taken my sleep, my peace, and my strength. Yet it had also given me a strange kind of purpose. I no longer thought of the room as empty. I no longer thought of myself as alone. The woman behind the paper was always there. She lived in the shadows of the pattern, moving, creeping, pressing. I watched her more than I watched John, more than I watched myself. She had become the center of my life. I spent whole hours sitting by the wall, my eyes fixed on the twisting lines. The pattern no longer looked like shapes to me. It looked like bars, like a prison, like chains that held her down. When she pressed against them, I felt it in my chest. When she shook them, I felt my own hands tremble. I whispered, "You will be free. I will help you. We will not be trapped forever." And I believed it. John came to me each morning, smiling, confident. He asked, "Did you rest? Are you calmer now?" I nodded and said, "Yes, I am calmer." He touched my cheek and told me, "You look better every day." He believed it. He thought his cure was working. But inside, I laughed at his blindness. Could he not see the fire in my eyes? Could he not see how the paper had claimed me? He saw only what he wanted to see. He never looked deep enough to notice the truth. At night, when the moonlight filled the room, I no longer saw one woman. I saw many. They all bent and crept behind the bars, their hands pushing, their bodies pressing. I whispered to them, "I see you all. I know you are there." They did not speak, but they moved more when I called. I felt surrounded by them. I thought, this is not only one woman's struggle. This is the struggle of many, and I am part of it. The obsession grew. I began to see the woman even in the day. She shook the bars in the sunlight, crawling low, creeping quickly. I thought I saw her outside the paper, too. When I looked at the garden from the window, I imagined her creeping among the paths, hiding behind the trees. I blinked hard, but when I looked again, she was there still, moving, watching. I whispered to myself, "She has come out. She is free in the day, but at night she is trapped again." I hid these thoughts from John. He would never believe me. He would call it madness. He would order me to stop. But I knew what I saw. I knew she was real. And I knew it was my duty to set her free completely. I told myself, if I free her, I will be free too. We are one. Her prison is my prison. Her chains are my chains. John still came to me with his calm smile. He told me, "You must not tire yourself. You must be patient." I nodded and said, "Yes, I am patient." But inside I thought, I am not patient. I am waiting for the right moment. I am waiting to set her free. The days blurred together. I lost count of the hours. I cared only for the paper, only for her. She was mine, and I was hers. I whispered, "We are the same. You are me, and I am you. We will break free together." I believed it with all my heart. The room was no longer just a place to rest. It had become the battlefield where freedom would be won. And I knew the time was coming soon. The woman pressed harder each night. The paper shook with her struggle. And I sat, waiting, my hands ready, my heart burning, knowing that when the moment came, nothing could stop me. Chapter 8. Breaking Free. The last days in the room were no longer days to me. They felt like years, stretched and heavy. I could not think of anything except the woman in the paper. She had become part of me, and I had become part of her. Every hour I heard her silent cry. Every hour I felt her hands pushing, pulling, shaking the bars. I whispered back to her, "I will help you. I will not leave you inside." Those words became my prayer, my promise, my only purpose. When John asked me how I was, I gave him the same gentle answer. "I am better," I told him. He smiled proudly and kissed my forehead. "I knew you would improve," he said. I smiled back, but inside I laughed. Could he not see the fire in my eyes? Could he not hear the tearing sound that filled my dreams? He saw only what he wanted. He believed in his cure more than he believed in me. He did not know that I had already chosen my own cure. At night the moonlight gave me strength. The paper glowed, and the woman moved more wildly than ever. She shook the bars with all her strength, crawling, creeping, pulling at every line. I pressed my face close to the wall and whispered, "It is time. We will not wait anymore." My hands trembled with excitement. I dug my fingers into the rough paper and began to tear. The sound was sharp, and it filled the room like thunder. Piece by piece, strip by strip, I tore the bars apart. In the morning, John found me with the paper scattered around me. He looked shocked. "What have you done?" he asked, his voice tight with fear. I turned to him with calm eyes and said, "I have set her free. Can you not see? She is out now." He stepped closer and said, "There is no one there. Stop this madness. You must lie down at once." But I only laughed softly and turned back to the wall. "You cannot stop me. She has been trapped too long. I am helping her, and no one can keep me from it." I crawled along the wall, my hands tearing and pulling. The paper came off in long pieces, falling around me, like broken chains. I whispered, "Yes, yes, you are free. I am free." My voice was steady, filled with strange joy. John tried to take my arm, but I pulled away with surprising strength. "Do not touch me," I told him. "You cannot keep me in. I belong to her and she belongs to me." As the paper fell, the woman grew clearer. I saw her bending, creeping, pressing, moving with me. We were the same now. I whispered, "I am out at last. I am with you now." My voice trembled, but it was not fear. It was power. I felt stronger than I had ever felt before. John stood still, his face pale. He watched me with wide eyes as I moved around the room. "For heaven's sake, what are you doing?" he cried. I turned to him and smiled. "I am the woman you could not see. I have come out. I have broken free." He stepped back, shaking his head. No, this is not you. You must rest." I only laughed again. The laugh sounded strange even to me, sharp and high, but it filled me with energy. "Rest? I have rested too long. Now I am alive." I crept around the room, following the walls, tearing at the last pieces of the paper. John stood frozen, unable to stop me. At last, when the paper was almost gone, he cried out and fainted, falling to the floor with a heavy sound. I looked down at him for only a moment. "He cannot stop me now," I whispered. No one can stop me now. The room that once felt like a cage no longer held me. The paper was gone, the bars broken, the chains torn apart. I was not hidden anymore. I was not silent anymore. I had become the woman inside, and she had become me. Together we were free, creeping, moving, alive in the space where once there was only silence,